Good morning. We'll call the work session to order. Commissioners, you have before you the minutes for the regular meeting of Tuesday, December the 8th. You should have, by the end of the day, the minutes for the work session of Monday, December the 7th. Due to a technical difficulty, we were not able to get those ready. However, between now and tomorrow evening's meeting, if you will, please review those minutes. If there's any additions, deletions, or corrections that need to be made, please see Ms. Duke so that that can be taken care of. Our first agenda item will be public hearing on REZ 2016-01. This has been identified as Project Max. This is out on Rocky Ford Road. It's a request for rezoning from EA to M2 of 123 acres. Mr. Davenport?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do want to thank the Commission for their attendance at the Planning Commission. I think a lot of good information was shared that night. Very helpful from not only Development Authority, but staff and good questioning. So I feel like I just wanted to say thank you for attending that meeting. I think it'll be very helpful to this discussion. Ultimately, what you have is a case before you to change approximately 123 acres from agricultural zoning to manufacturing zoning. We've been through the basic questions with the zoning administrator, Ms. Braswell, and the authority about why we need M2. We believe the user and the intensity is going to require at least an M2 zoning. And so we've tried to work with that. Certainly we've been given an abbreviated timeline to work with, but we feel like we've been able to do a healthy amount of homework, not only at the local but the state level, in order to get this ready for your consideration. And ultimately, we do believe it's going to be ready for your consideration tomorrow. You can see the various recommendations from staff that you have before you from the TRC, as well as what the Planning Commission did with it, which was ultimately try to recommend for it with 2 conditions. I can tell you we've had communications with the attorney about those conditions in an attempt to try to verify that they're ready for your consideration if you choose to select one or both of them. Those conversations are going to continue after the work session, so I'll be prepared to give you an update, if not before tomorrow, at tomorrow's meeting about the use of those. Beyond that, the only update I'll have since the last meeting, the Planning Commission meeting last week, was we've had some contact with an adjacent property owner in the area to just address some concerns and questions that he had. I'm not sure at this point whether or not he's going to speak at tomorrow's meeting, but I do believe he's been in contact with the Development Authority, so they tried to share some information with him. So that's the only update really I've had since last week. We'll try to address any questions you have this morning and ultimately try to make sure it's ready for you all tomorrow.
Commissioners, we have any questions for Mr. Davenport?
Yes. Jason, I'm a firm believer in being as business friendly as possible. Not really one with any type of conditions. I was just wondering, I know condition 2 was questionable, and I definitely have concerns with that one, but in regards to condition number 1, do you feel we need that one?
I do. You can see staff, not all staff was on the same page with the first condition. The Planning Commission was agreeable to the first condition, as was the Development Authority, and I definitely understand the sensitivity about being business friendly. My concern with the zoning is that M2 zoning will allow for a healthy amount of zoning. It will allow for some uses that are very, they can be very, very intense for this area, and I just wasn't quite sure that unrestricted M2 zoning was the best for this area. So that's what the motivation behind condition number 1. In relation to number 1 and number 2, in my opinion, the first one is more important because it does allow them to try to do what they're saying they're going to do successfully. We don't want to restrict that, but it still limits some other uses that might not be appropriate for that site. So that was my motivation. I understand the sensitivity, but that's where I was trying to come from on it.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm just, this is just one of the situations. I don't really know if you need conditions, but you say condition 1 is needed.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on now to agenda item 6, items for your consideration. The first one is 6A. This is the Code Red Service Agreement. Mr. Tye.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've had the Code Red service since December of 2007 now. It's worked very well. Actually, once we started Code Red, we did add the weather warning feature which has been a valuable addition. In 2007, when we originally got Code Red, we were paying $39,000 annually. Since then, back in 2012, we did, the Board of Commissioners at that time approved a 5-year agreement that helped us save a little money and reduce the cost to $35,000. What we have before you now is Code Red has offered, or Emergency Communications Network, who's the vendor that provides Code Red, has offered us to update our current agreement with another 5-year agreement and reduce our cost to $25,000 annually. Basically, we'll be paying $25,000 for the Code Red service, and they'll be throwing in the weather warning feature for free. So that's a substantial cost savings over what we've been paying. So I wanted to bring that for the board, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from Mr. Ty?
Mr. Ty, how many, the contract says for 100,000 system minutes a year.
Yes, sir.
How many system minutes are we using, we've been using the last couple of years?
Since we've had Code Red, we have never used our full bank of 100,000 minutes. I believe last year we used right at 60,000 of those 100,000. Of course, that could change. It depends on the great thing is the weather warnings, like when we have tornado warnings and the flash flood warnings, those are automated and they don't come off of that 100,000. So we could have an unlimited amount of weather warning calls and not affect it. The 100,000 minutes are for things like if we have say we have a flooding situation, we need to let the property owners along the rivers and in floodplains know, or a boil water advisory or something like that, where we need to issue a notice that's not covered under the weather warning features. Then that's where those minutes come out of. And as I said, so far we have never in a single year used all of our minutes.
Also limits us to 5 users. Is that where we are now? Kind of?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Typically, the emergency management director is the one that initiates the calls, but we do have 5 users, so we have some backups and some redundancy. So if something happens and I'm not able to launch the call, we do have people that can do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ty? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, agenda item 6B, it's the antivirus software lease. Mr. Pritchard.
Mr. Chairman, a question came up late Friday afternoon on this item, which we at this point did not have a suitable answer for. So with the board's indulgence, I'd like to ask that this be tabled until the following meeting.
Okay. Any objection to having it tabled? Okay. All right, let's move on to agenda item 6C. This is the maintenance for uninterruptible power supply. Mr. Costi.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. As stated here, this is for the UPS. It is made by APC. It's the one that sits in this building that serves for uninterruptible battery power for your data center, your network core, all of the wireless, all of the 11 wiring closets, all of the telephony, access control, and burglary alarms in this building are ran off of this UPS. It was the one that was installed just prior to us moving into the building and has been providing us service for the last 5 years. And this is simply to renew the maintenance contract on it to allow us to get this under support again.
Any questions for Mr. Costi? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6D. This is the workers' compensation insurance renewal. Mr. Beals.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as stated, the item before you is our workers' comp annual renewal. This year, our annual renewal is $236,372. That's less a 7.5% of reduction due to our safety program that we have. We also have been working with the ACCG over the last couple of months in developing a new safety program that we're hoping to bring to you within the next couple of months. You also see there that we do receive also a dividend credit of $16,123 that will bring our total premium due for this upcoming year to $220,249. I happen to have Miss Ashley Abercrombie in the office today from the ACCG, should you have any additional questions in regards to the coverage itself. If you happen to have any questions, we'll be happy to entertain them.
Any questions for Mr. Beals?
Kevin, any departments that stand out in regards to workman comp usage or any?
Well, you do have several where occurrences happen more often. Let's say activities, if any type of training and other activities that happen to come out when it comes to workers' comp and stuff like that may end up coming to the forefront. So we do have some different departments that do, of course, even cost a little more based on even the activities that they participate in. I think one of our highest is even Public Works, just due to the diversity of what they're doing. So particularly pinning down a particular department right now, I don't have that information for you, but I can bring something back for you tomorrow afternoon to specifically state which ones may be leading the way in some of the activities. But that's what we're trying to address in some of our new safety programs.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Beaver.
Yes, sir.
We'll move on now to agenda item 6E. This is a resolution to adopt amended and restated retirement plan. Again, Mr. Beal.
All right. This action is being requested on behalf of ACCG, and they're requesting it really on our behalf. Every 5 years, there's a requirement for the a retirement plan to be restated, and that information provided to the IRS in order for them to review the different components of that particular plan. Over the last couple of years, there have been some changes that have been made on the federal government level, the Supreme Court, as well as the state of Georgia. They're basically the IRS is going to be reviewing those particular changes, make sure they're in accordance with state and federal regulations. And our hopes here is that we'll receive a determination letter come back to us saying that we're credible and that everything that we have in place is in accordance with their rules and regulations. We haven't made many changes over the years. I think probably the last one that we made was when we changed the eligibility or the vesting from 5 years to 10 years. And after that, the state of Georgia, when it comes to tax commissioners, if you were going to participate either in the state retirement system or the county, it requires action on behalf of the jurisdiction, which is yourselves, to state that we would be happy to send them the money to allow them to fund the retirement system if someone was going to participate. Instead, those individuals stay on our retirement system.
Kevin, this would apply to employees that we hire, I guess, in the future, or would it affect the ones that's been here a while as well?
As far as this plan, there is no changes or adjustments or anything like that. Anybody who's being hired currently is under this particular plan. Any future adjustments may come up with benchmark time periods in which from that time period forward it may affect. But currently, as far as everything that's being stated, there haven't been any adjustments or anything like that. It's just a restatement of the plan to ensure that we're meeting all the regulations that have been set forth over the last several years. The last time we did this was in 2009.
Okay. And so basically, whenever we do any changes, I guess the previous employees are always like grandfathered in or something like that.
They're under the time frame of when it was adopted and when they came onto the plan itself. If we were to make any additional changes, it's just like the 10-year vesting. When we made that change in our plan to go from 5 to 10, that cutoff date, I think it was January 1st, 2011, if memory serves me correctly. Everybody hired after that date would be affected by that eligibility requirement of having to obtain a 10-year vesting.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Beaver. Agenda item 6F is to adopt the resolution for accepting the infrastructure for Creekside West subdivision Phase 3. Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, sir. This is the resolution to accept the infrastructure for Creekside West Phase 3, located off of Highway 122, just west of I-75. As part of this subdivision, we will only be accepting the water and sewer infrastructure because the streets and drainage will remain private.
Any questions from Mr. Fletcher?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mike, have we had a situation where a private development like this tried to turn the road infrastructure and everything over to us? I mean, has there ever been a situation where they just say, we're taking the gates down and we want the county to take it over?
We have had some inquiry about those things, but in order for those to be done, the roads have to be, a lot of times they have to be resurfaced. Sometimes the drainage infrastructure has to be, cleaned out, maintained, or things like that they just let lax over, a period of time. But typically, the roads have to be resurfaced, is what we've seen.
But the standards that they're working under right now would be under county standards.
That's right. The road is built to county standards today. We could accept the roads today if he so chose. But, in 10 years, if he comes back, if the roads have deteriorated and needs to be resurfaced, that will be one of the requirements before we could.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Mr. Fletcher, we've already accepted phase 1 and 2.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll now move on to agenda item 6G. This is to adopt the resolution on accepting the infrastructure for Ivy Gate Phase 2 subdivision.
Yes, sir. Just like the last one, this is Ivy Gate Phase 2. We will be this is the resolution to accept the infrastructure, and under this one, we will be accepting the roads, the drainage, the water, and the sewer. This is located off of Cat Creek Road, just north of the Pine Grove Elementary School.
Any questions? Hearing none, let's move on to agenda item 6H. This is the Clattville-Nankin Road Bridge repairs. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. Back at the first part of December, we had a citizen call in regarding a hole that was developing along the Clattville-Nankin Road Bridge. We went out and investigated it. We found that there was some end deflection due to the approach slab being compromised. So we hired Southern Concrete under an emergency basis to remove the old existing approach slab, backfill it, and pour a new approach slab. And this is the repair cost for that.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6I. This is the Jumping Gully Road Bridge repairs. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. Georgia DOT comes around about every 2 years and inspects all of the 103 bridges that we have in the county that we maintain. And whenever they were doing their investigation, they found that the Jumping Gully Road Bridge, which is one of the older bridges in the county that still have wooden piles, that one of the wooden piles has deteriorated to a point that we need to install a helper bent, straddler bent under it to try to help maintain it until the bridge can be replaced. And this is a bid from Southern Concrete to do that, and we're probably looking at a 2 to 3 week time frame that the bridge will be down and the road will be closed.
Any questions for Mr. Fletcher?
How long do you anticipate this Band-Aid to last?
This is one of the bridges that are on our SPLOS list to be upgraded. This is probably a 2017 bridge, but if we don't put the Band-Aid, I guess you say, I like a better terms, on it now, we will probably be closing this bridge within the next few months.
Any other questions? Hearing none, let's move on to agenda item 6J. This is the Georgia Department of Transportation's Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, better known as LMIG. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. As a part of the Georgia Department of Transportation's Local Maintenance and Improvement Grants, Lowndes County has been authorized or has received a grant for $801,155.64 for FY 2016. The county has a 30% match, which will be $240,346.69, which will come out of SPLOST. You'll see the attached LMIG report that we're turning in that shows the roads that will be resurfaced. This is how we have used these funds over the last few years, is through resurfacing. We'll be resurfacing Touchton Road, Clattville-Nankin Road, and Old Lake Park Road.
Will you also comment on the plans for striping and marking of some of these roads?
Yes, sir. Under the Safety Action Program through the DOT, In October, the DOT awarded 40 and a half miles of road in the county to a company out of Dublin, Georgia, to come in and restripe and re-sign our roads. So we anticipate that starting in the March, April timeframe, when the weather starts warming back up a little bit. This is typically when they'll do it. So I would anticipate March, April. But the DOT led it as a part of I think it was a 19-county initiative. So this company's got 19 counties throughout South Georgia that they'll be doing striping on.
Mr. Fletcher, do we have a list of the proposed roads?
Yes, yes, sir. I have a list of the roads. And I have a list for you that I'll hand out to you. You'll notice on this list that Old Lake Park Road, one of the roads that we're fixing to resurface, is on here. It was approved for 2.39 miles. We have, since we have updated the LMIG list and we're going to resurface it, we're adding Seconder Road in its place, and Seconder Road is 2.43 miles. So basically they're a wash. There's only 0.04 of a mile difference. So those roads will be swapped out. Okay. But it's 40 and a half miles of road, 40.52 miles of road, and I've got a copy for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Would they, I guess, adhere to that Complete Streets initiative? I think GDOT is local. We're trying to go with basically providing an extra foot or two on the side for walking, bike riders.
No, sir. This is just to restripe it and install new signs. With the high reflective, high intensity signs, there'll be new signs put up and new striping and raised pavement markers, RPMs.
Okay. Now, I was told that they have a new initiative where they're trying to add at least 2 or more feet for bike lanes nowadays, or people to walk on. But
yes, sir. This is not a part of that.
Will that happen when Old Lake Park Road is resurfaced?
When Old Lake Park Road is resurfaced, they will restripe it as a part of the resurfacing contract.
Yeah, no, I mean, will it be widened any?
No, sir. No, sir. It will not be widened.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6K. This is in regards to 5426 Danelli Drive. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. The county has received a request from First American Title Insurance Company made in connection with this proposed insurance for title insurance regarding 5426 Danelli Drive, of whether the county has present plans to require the removal of the carport and drive that is located on the subject property that is encroaching onto the county's right-of-way. And this is a approval and authorization and letter for the chairman to sign, saying that the county does not presently have any plans to require the removal of the carport or drive as shown.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6L. Beer license, Omni and Madoff Corporation, DBA Eagle Food Mart number 1, 4357 Bemis Road. Ms. Black.
Yes, sir. This is for the Eagle Food Mart number 1. This is for a beer license for consumption off premise and is due to a change of ownership.
Any questions for Ms. Black?
Ms. Black, how much does a beer license cost?
It is $500. For consumption off premise, it's $500.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item M. This is the beer and wine license for Omni and Madoff Corporation, DBA Eagle Food Mart at 4952 Bemis Road. Ms. Black.
Yes, sir. This is for Eagle Food Mart, which is a different store. It is for beer and wine for consumption off premise, and it is also due to a change of ownership.
Any questions for Ms. Black? Okay, hearing none, we'll move now to agenda item 6N. This is the North Lounge Park, the quick claim deed and custodial agreement. Mr. Pritchard.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, y'all are all aware that the county and the Parks and Rec Department have been working in unison for a number of years to try to locate a site suitable for the construction of a soccer facility. We have for you now documentation from the DOT to accept and authorize the recording of this quitclaim deed and also to approve the chairman's execution of a custodial agreement. Chad has been our contact person in dealing with both the DOT and Parks and Rec, and Walter has been involved from the standpoint of preparation and review of the document. So I'd like to ask Chad if he would make any comments referring to this, to the plans of the project.
Yes, sir. As Mr. Pritchard stated, we do have the deed in hand, and once the custodial agreement is, if it is approved and we accept the deed for the land, staff is prepared to move forward with the design. We do have a master plan done of the park, and then we'll be prepared to go to clearing within 2 to 3 months, depending on surveying. We've already the land has been environmentally cleared through the state, which had to be done before they gave us a deed to the property. So as soon as we can get survey and topo information in, we would start clearing on the project while we finish up the design of the soccer fields.
Any questions?
Just one, this is in Hayhire, right? That exit?
Yes, sir. That is just north of the existing skate park.
Okay.
It is north of the existing park. It goes around what used to be the exit, the rest stop there, rest area, and it's about, as we said, about 63 acres there. Now, what this is saying, as you, I'm sure, have read, is that if for some reason this property no longer is used for the public purposes of recreation, it would then revert back to DOT. Walter, you have any comment?
No, I don't have any specific comment other than that the custodial agreement is drafted to dovetail into the provisions of the quitclaim deed.
I noticed it says SPLOST 6 also. So these funds are coming out of SPLOST 6. I thought we had put some in SPLOST 7 as well.
You have funds earmarked in both.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll now move on to agenda item 6O. This is the appointment of Board of Tax Assessors. Mr. Pritchard.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this is an item that has received considerable discussion among yourself as well as the public for a number of years. As you are aware, the Lowndes County is the only county in the state that currently elects their Board of Assessors. The proposal you have before you is for the presentation of a resolution to the General Assembly through our delegation seeking to amend the 1972 Act, in which it would now change the process of selection to the election, the appointment of those tax assessors, and note that the effective date of this would be 2020.
Commissioners, before I ask for any questions, I'd like to just have make a comment. Since I took office, this has been one subject matter that has come up at each one of the retreats that we've had through discussion. This has been a subject matter that has had discussion in the community as well. is actually, it has been brought up at ACCG training meetings that we've had in Lowndes County, not singled out negatively or positively, but it has been some topics of discussion of why Lowndes County would be the only county out of 159 in the state of Georgia that has elected tax assessors. I just feel like at this point that it's time to bring this back before the voters. This is the process that we will have to put in place in order to get it on the ballot for the voters again to decide whether they prefer that the Lowndes County tax assessors be elected or appointed. And so that's what you're working forward with right now with the resolution and the documents to encourage the delegation to put it on the ballot. Now, do we have any questions for Mr. Pritchard? Any questions regarding this issue? Okay. All right, hearing none, we'll move to agenda item 7. This is the county manager's report. Mr. Pritchard.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Being no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.